3, 2, 1.
Welcome to ASD Market Week's YouTube series, Retail Revelations Inside the Deal. This is your all-access pass to the world of buying and selling in the retail space. We're getting candid and having real conversations on what it takes to get the deal done. This is Retail Revelations Inside the Deal. Hello and welcome to Retail Revelations Inside the Deal. I'm your host, Stephanie Baring-Haley. And joining us today, we've got a treat. We're going to be digging into the distributor world with the one and only, the president of Mr. Checkout, Joel Goldstein. Joel, welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's very nice to meet you.
Well, I've watched YouTube videos of you. I've seen your articles, but I always think it's best when you get to say who you are as a person. So tell us a little bit about yourself. And of course, what is Mr. Checkout?
Yeah. So Mr. Checkout's a network of independent distributors. We have about 960 distributors currently sitting. And our role is really to be the ear to the ground for a lot of these small to medium-sized operators. You know, they're in their trucks all day. They're, 9 to 5, 8 to 8. They don't have the time to really keep track of what's going on, what's selling well, where the trends are. So we operate on the phone for the most part, and we have conversations with them, and we keep them informed. We find out what's working for their routes, and we let them know what's working down the street for their neighbors' routes. And so we get paid very similar to a rep or broker, but our relationship is really with the distributors, and we function as their product management arm.
Love it. And so you're in the publication house, right? You're a writer. What do you write about? Who are you affiliated with?
Well, previously, mostly what I've been focused on is the business world. And it's really kind of on that startup level because in this role, we see so many young businesses getting started. And I see so many people make the same mistakes over and over again. So I really kind of put together all of the things that we've seen and how to avoid them and really how to avoid the big pitfalls. So that's what I've been doing as far as writing is it's my small attempt to make the world an easier place to live for entrepreneurs that are just getting started, because a lot of the times they don't know what's happening when they start succeeding, and they don't know how to scale that and how to prepare on the front end for the success that they're going to have on the back end. And so it's not often that we see the products go down. It's more so that the entrepreneur didn't know how to keep up with the growing demand.
I love that. You're capturing the pain points. Usually people just want to do the highlight reel, but sometimes you have to get real and say, wait a minute, there's the pitfalls. And I've
The
seen it
pitfalls
happen.
are
So
the big
don't
one.
make the mistake.
Yeah. And that's the thing that really hurts us, because we see so many great products and great entrepreneurs come through with all the, chutzpah and the, big confidence. And as soon as they get a big order, they don't have the inventory to fill it, or they don't have the factoring in place to be able to afford, or they haven't slotted in with their co-packers for, a larger order. And those kind of deals, they don't come very often. And if you miss them, sometimes it goes away.
Got to capture the moment. So this
Yeah.
is not by fluke. You actually grew up with your father who started the business. So I want to spread a little bit light. His name was Bob.
My name, my father's name was Bob.
Perfect. So tell us, Bob, how did he come up with this big idea for Mr. Checkout, and what's the story behind that?
So he was a distributor back in Boston, and he went under Terrell Distributors. I forget, Terrell something Distributors. And I grew up going in his truck with him through downtown, some of the seedy neighborhoods in Boston, and he was hopping out and going and bringing things into the stores, because he started as a Keebler elf. He started working as a delivery driver for Keebler, and on the side, he had extra product in his trunk that he used to supplement his income with, because he was already at these stores. But they caught on to that. They gave him the heave ho, but he was making more money selling the products out of his trunk than he was with Keebler. So he started a distribution route, and that's how Mr. Checkout got started, because the people that he went into the stores, they didn't know who Terrell Distributing was or who Bob was, but they knew the Mr. Checkout, the guy with the checkout products.
Yeah.
And that's how they got the name Mr. Checkout.
And it's probably what he started with, batteries or just the random things that you didn't know you really need. And once you have those
Exactly.
items, consumers are pleased. Is that what it was?
The day in, day out sellers, the small individual Tylenols, the Advils. He had sunglasses, the rack jobber programs that are still alive today. We have plenty of distributors that are selling, sunglasses and Tylenol and batteries, and they're doing very well with it.
Those are my main. So it's summer, which means you hit the road, right? Road trips with the family,
Yep.
because nobody trusts planes right now. There's a lot going on in that world. But when you go to convenience stores and some of these smaller supermarkets and stuff, what's local? I want glasses
Yeah.
for the kids and a blow up thing. And now I have a headache though too, because the kids have been screaming in the car. So I think the business model is perfect. But so your dad started it, you grew up in it on the road, and now
I
here
grew
you
up
are.
going to the trade shows. I grew up going to the meetings, and he really brought me up in the business. And because of that, I've had this experience where I've been able to see these small businesses over the years turn into big businesses, and the big businesses fail and restart over and over again. I just spoke to a company yesterday who this is the third time we've been working with them because they kept restructuring. They sold the business. They acquired a new brand, and we keep working with the same companies, and we've been working with them for over 20 something years now. So we've seen things over the years where it's cyclical. It's time and time again.
So as the president and kind of taking on the business from your father, you first of all got to witness so much. I can't even imagine. There's probably some amazing stories that happened while you were on the road with your dad. But how are you evolving the business, and what are you maintaining that he started that you
Yeah.
still thinks works today? What does that look like?
Well, he's still involved. He does a lot of the
Okay.
website development with us, but he's still active in the business. But what he really kind of brought into the business was the fact that we're the people that pick up the phone. So a lot of the times when you call these distributor operations, you call the retailers, you can't get anybody on the phone. There's no decision makers. So we are the company that will pick up the phone when you call. And so that is a big factor that we've really instilled, is that customer service. We still have an 800 number that we've
Yeah.
had for 30 years. And we make sure that everybody's handled with the proper time. Because at the end of the day, when you're working with entrepreneurs that are excited and that have that focus and that drive, every day has to be an achievement. You need to keep moving that ball forward. And I completely understand that, being an entrepreneur, when you have your baby, you want to make sure that it's going and that the energy's up. So we make sure to pick up the phone, and we make sure that we over deliver and under promise. And so when we bring on a client, we make sure that their expectations are managed and we over deliver on what we promise.
So talk to me about, in the distributor world, you have all these emerging brands that are coming in. I think you put it well. You said, what do you do? Your baby is right here and you're ready to seize the
Right.
day, but one false move and it could ruin you. So how do you set up these emerging brands for success, and why do you think distributors are so important for their business model?
Yeah. The big thing that people don't understand when they're launching a product through retail is they want to get the product on the store shelves of Walmart, they want Target, they want Kroger, they want the national brands, right? But what they don't understand is when you have national brands like that, you have low margins.
Mhm.
And when you have the low margins, you can't sell it other places necessarily with higher margins. It doesn't go the other way. So what we like to say is that when you're working with these small independent stores and the distributors, the prices might be higher, the margins might be bigger. But when you have that big account that sends back product, or you have a backlog of inventory, or you have a backstock you need to clear out, you need to have that in place to keep the chain greased. You got to keep the movement going for the inventory, because the thing that kills small businesses most of all is stagnant inventory. having things sitting in the warehouse and then having that spoil or go bad, that will drive up your prices, and that'll really be the kiss of death. So keeping that inventory moving is really important, and having independent retail already buying and having that flow is really important for when something big happens, when there's a problem, when there's an issue. You're always going to have that revenue stream. That's the biggest thing in business, right? Multiple revenue streams, always having different irons in the fire. And so that's what I always say, that independent retail should be kind of your first, because it's the best place to test a product. You
Yes.
start small, you test small, then you scale big, not going backwards.
It's so funny because I refer to stagnant inventory as like the roommate you never wanted. They don't pay, they just take up space, and it does nobody any good. So you're right, keeping that flow, keeping it moving so that it's generating cash flow, definitely important. And I love what you
Super
put for the
important.
independents. What a great way to start and see how are consumers approaching your brand. Do they like it? Is it the right packaging? Is it the
Right.
right placement? Where are the synergies? So I think that's a great point.
Yeah. And we're going to get a lot of really good feedback, because when you work with the distributors, they have zero filter. They're going to tell they're going to tell you when your packaging's terrible. They're going to tell you, why can't you give me this? Why can't you give me? But they also come with the best ideas. They're going to tell you you're going to need a clip strip to be attached to a sticker that can go onto glass. You're going to need this. You're going to need that. And by having that flow and keeping that non-filtered conversation, you're going to get direct feedback. Whereas, as I'm sure you went with the big retailers, you get that every quarter, but you also get it through corporate speak,
Yeah.
where it's not exactly relayed what you need to do. And these guys will tell you exactly what you need to do. They'll tell
You
you many
know,
times.
I'm always like, give it to me straight. We're gonna waste
Yeah,
a lot of time. So how can I? And I think what people don't realize is that it's a win-win when everyone's selling something
right.
and it's in that motion. That's the sweet spot. That's where everyone wants to be, in that whole circular way of doing the business. So listen to them. They're not being mean and angry. They're just simply saying, I want to sell your product. I see potential in it, but there's a little room for improvement.
Little
So let's get that started.
Yeah, I don't know what distributors you're talking about. Mine are all mean and angry, and they'll tell you exactly what they're thinking.
So you have a unique perspective in terms of you get to see trends. You get to see
We
what
do.
emerging brands are performing well, what are maybe are not doing so great. So talk to us about what you're seeing trend and what you're saying maybe stay home with that product and don't bring it out to market.
Well, it's very interesting, because when we had COVID come through, we saw a big push of what we call farmers markety items, things that you're going to see at a farmers market with, maybe not professional grade labeling, maybe not the best packaging. We don't see that anymore. I don't know what that change was, but we're seeing a lot of very professional early stage products with very effective labeling. I think it has a lot to do with the education, like what you're doing now, where you're being able to convey to early stage brands what to invest in and why they should, start with good labeling and good positioning and testing early to figure out what the right way to present the product is. So what I'm seeing is a lot of very well thought out product coming through. Now, the trend right now has been kind of moving away from the CBD side. That trend really kind of took a steep decline when that kind of off-label THC stuff started moving in. But we also see a big trend moving away from the natural foods as far as
Interesting.
snacks. We're seeing a lot of functional beverages, which are very healthy, but we're seeing a move from snacking away from kind of the better for you snacking world into more of the sultry, sugary snacks that are higher end, but they're not good for you
Yeah.
necessarily. Because for a while there, we were seeing kale flavor this and tarragon flavor that. We don't see that so much anymore, but we see a lot of Dubai chocolate now, and we see a lot of different flavors coming from overseas, as far as the pops and the boba and things like that, where we see very high sugar content,
Yeah.
not very good for you, but it's higher end products that's selling through main channels now.
It's so bad. I always think of them as treats, right? If I want to snack on something, I want to be indulgent and have something that's just going to make me feel so good. If
Yeah.
I want something that's kale tasting, that'll be for lunch, a kale salad. So I get that part.
Yeah, people are moving away from that, but quite frankly, I like a healthy snack, and I think that that's going to come back in mass. However, I think people, for the most part, right now, are focused more on comfort as
Mhm.
instead of that kind of going out. I need something healthy because a lot of people are more home focused, as we've seen with the office movement. So there's less commuting, less of that, where people can have that snack at home and they get that from the Costco or wherever they buy their bulk purchases.
Yeah.
So we're seeing less of the kind of daily snacking and more so the indulgence, and that's fine.
What about pet products? Because I know for us, particularly at ASD Market Week, we see it both from all of a sudden the retailers who are incorporating that product line within their storefronts, whereas previously they didn't.
Yeah,
And they're doing the test pilots and they're saying, okay, not only are my consumers saying this is a great product, they're actually spending money. So
yeah.
we want to keep this behavior going. And it's everything from the hardware stores to the dollar stores to the mom and pop on the street corner. So do you see a lot of that kind of influxing upward as well?
We launched a line for an in and out program last November, December, that was focused on dog treats right by the checkout counter in a shipper. And they were holiday centric. I think it was from October actually, because it was everything from Halloween to Christmas, and they did phenomenally. But it was a great in and out program. As far as a day to day, we've had pet products come through. Not so much a great day to day seller, but an in
Mhm.
and out program for the holidays was definitely a win.
Love it. So, and all of this doesn't make any sense unless you can have great product, you can have great marketing, but being able to sell your product and build relationships within this
Right.
industry and keep them and evolve. And like you were saying earlier, you got to diversify your portfolio because you can't be selling to the same people. You need to make small, big, all of them are good. So, talk to us about how you recommend relationships, the associations that you're affiliated with. What does that world look like?
Yeah, the biggest thing as far as relationships go is picking up the phone. I can't tell you how many people today they rely on email marketing and their text message. It's not the same. It's not the same as having a conversation and asking about a family member, being genuinely involved, not just placating somebody. It's important to have those relationships, and you don't have to have a relationship with everybody, but for somebody to be able to pick up your call when you need to speak to them, that's important. And it may not be important on the day to day, but it will be for that one time where you need to speak to somebody and you need to have a conversation. So keeping those relationships alive, we found no replacement for the phone. We've tried everything from text messaging to email blasts, but at the end of the day, we're on the phone every week, every other week with these 900 distributors. And that's the only way that we've found the ability to keep that relationship going.
It's so interesting because your business model being reliant on the phones for trade shows, obviously, we are very focused on getting everyone in a room, have the handshakes and all of that. But you need both of them because throughout the whole year, you
Yeah.
need to have that constant connection and to build it and to say hello. How's business? How did that work out for you? That's your testing throughout the whole season and just building. And then at the show, it becomes, this is what you actually look like. Your voice, I
Yeah.
totally thought you looked differently. But you get to really build upon it, which is a great way for people just to stay consistent. But I also know within your space, you said a lot of the people, they're in their trucks all day long and
Yeah.
they're just on the road. They don't have the time. So, what's this road life like for them?
Yeah, they're family operators. So they have a family. They get up in the morning and they hit the road. They go. They usually have a small to medium-sized warehouse where they keep stock. But I like to call it just-in-time inventory because it's not. It's like just-in-time manufacturing. But when they order something from a supplier and it comes into their warehouse, it goes out that same day, that the next day.
Right.
So they don't sit on product. They don't have large inventories that they carry. They use that as a hub to keep the wheels turning. And so they're on the road for most of the day. Um, Most of what they're doing is bringing the product into the store and having those conversations with the store owner, which is so invaluable for a product owner to hear the feedback from that store owner. So they're kind of the conduit for a lot of our suppliers to figure out what's working and what the feedback is from the store owners. And quite frankly, they're not going to be the ones that are going to be answering the text message and
Yeah.
the email. So, when we call them, we usually have to call them 3 or 4 times because, we've got to catch them in the middle of it going between stores. And, their lives are very busy, and it takes a very busy person that likes that life to be able to do this kind of a job. And you have to understand that going
Yeah.
in, that, they're turning, they're making deals. And most of the time when they're walking in, they're walking out with cash in their hand. So it's a very still cash centric business where everybody else is working terms and payment schedules. They walk out with cash, and when they order product, they put it on a credit card and pay it off in 30 days. That's still their business model. So just as you guys with the trade shows are face to face, old
Yeah.
school, we are very much old school. As we're facilitating that conversation, because at the end of the day, that's what really matters.
They're such unsung heroes because they're doing so much work. And sometimes I feel like in this industry, we forget certain layers of people that are doing very good work for just the whole industry. So, do you think that this group, there's so much technology, there's AI, and it's AI in terms of HR services, right? For hiring people or for finding your inventory count and stuff like that. Do you think that this world is taking advantage of any of it, or do you think it's very
Absolutely
much
not. AI is a four-letter word. They are the least AI driven
Yeah.
fashion. And I think that they will go out of business before they adopt any kind of practice like that. We see a lot with the mid-sized distributors, with our beverage guys. They use a lot of tools for inventory management, and they
Okay.
use a lot of tools for keeping track of everything as far as kind of what's working, what's not working, where the sales are. But as far as the DSDs that are bringing the product in for the checkout counters, they will not be using any of
Yeah.
those kind of, yeah. HR tools do not exist in this world.
Remember, we went back to that whole blunt force. Just tell me how it is.
Yeah, speaking of ASD, we had a few years there where we have some good stories from Las Vegas police about our distributors coming to a couple trade shows. So, back in
Well,
the day.
well, I was going to ask you, actually, that was my next story because you've experienced so much. That means that you have good stories. Do you have a favorite story of being in this business that you can share that you think is ready to be shared with everyone?
I don't know, it's going to be very PC or appropriate. But as far as the biggest hits that we've seen, 5 Hour Energy was our big Super Bowl. So, we got to be part of that launch and putting the product into the world. But it's really cool to see when there's a company that comes to market and they have the millions of dollars to just spread the word and put the product out where it needs to be. Back then, this was one of the first programs that we did where we actually paid distributors to put the product on the shelf. And they gave, I think, 2 or 3 free fills. They paid, I think it was $25, $35, maybe up to 50 per store that it was in. And, they were literally putting their money where the product was. And, it was they had the ability, they had the confidence behind it, and it paid off. So, we were some of the first distributors to be able to put that product into the world because our guys, they're the risk takers of the world. They're the guys that'll show up and put the product out there where everybody else wants to have a discussion about it and, see what the spreadsheet says.
You're the truth. I totally remember being younger and going to Vegas, and that 5 hour energy was a godsend because you would fling that in and you were ready to go. And it was like, what time is it? It doesn't even matter. We're pumped and ready to go on life.
Yeah, and there's energy in everything now.
Yeah.
So it really sparked a revolution as far as caffeine is concerned.
So for those that are pure new, just getting into the business, if you had to give them one piece of advice, what would it
Yeah.
be?
When you put a product out, you want to start by selling it yourself. Don't bring on somebody that's going to sell your product for you because nobody's going to be able to speak as eloquently or talk as passionately as you about your product. And when the product's in the store, that's when it starts. So once you put the product into the store, you sit in that store and you watch people walk by your product. Because what you're not going to find is people speaking the truth about what's happening in the store when you go back to restock it. You're not going to find out that the guy's took the product into the back and sold it in the alley. You need to sit there, watch the product go through, and then when people walk by and take a look at it and look at the label and then put it back on the shelf, you want to go up to that person and ask them, what could we have done better? How could I have earned your business? What were you looking for? And how can I adjust what you need? And when people walk by it and give it a glance and not a second look, you want to be able to focus their attention because it's really that 5 second, on demand impulse that you want to look for. And a lot of that comes from labeling. And it's a lot of subtlety when it comes to labeling. So you're not going to really be able to understand that until you are there visually seeing it and you're able to have those conversations. At the end of the day, as I said, it really comes down to those key conversations on the front end that is going to be able to help you scale on the back end. Because if you don't have it right when you start, you're not going to be able to feel confident putting your money and your time and your energy behind it to make it scale big.
I'm so glad that you highlighted this because we have so many people that they'll send their product off to our show for the first time. And then we say, how did it go? And we find out that they weren't there to represent the brand. And there was somebody else, and it was a college student or someone else. And you're like, you just lost money because they weren't proud or excited about this going out to market. They couldn't care less. They're
We
looking at
hear it
the
all the time
time.
too. It drives me crazy. Drives me crazy because you can do that work on the front end, but when it comes time to it, that's when you need to show up.
Yes.
That's when you need to show up.
And like you said, that's the boot camp version. That's where you're going to assess every
Oh, for
component
sure.
that touches that product. You are going to see it in full motion. And then you're going to see what's the missing link and how do I fix that one thing? And then it could be successful. So you don't know what you don't know. And that's why you have to have eyes on it and you have to experience
And
it.
there's
So
no
that you
better place to have a conversation than the trade show with all the decision makers literally walking by it at the same moment.
Yes.
You could have back-to-back you can have a lifetime supply of information right there, getting great ideas about your product in a day.
100%. And you
Yeah.
know what? Those buyers, if they don't buy from you, you already know you have to make the change because
You
the
have to.
industry has spoken and they have told you are not ready to have this product go live yet. And you can fix it then and you can change. Change your pitch throughout the whole day. See
Yeah.
what works, what doesn't. That's why you're there.
Yeah, and better yet, come with different packaging and different labeling. See, have real-time examples of what I could do better. Yeah.
So this industry, there's so much going on in the world. We've got the tariffs, we've got logistics, there's nearshoring, there's rising costs, there's so many things that are going on. What do you think is going to happen in the future? And when I say future, I don't mean 5, 10 years. I mean like 6 months from now. What do we think is going to happen within the distribution world?
Absolutely nothing. Yeah, I can tell you because it's one of those things with I literally had this conversation with China today. Is that when you have tariffs, it doesn't matter what the cost is. There's a rising tide, and that's going to raise or lower, and that's the way it is.
Yep.
And if somebody's going to buy something, they're going to buy it. If they're not, they're not. But at the end of the day, the pricing, you don't have too much control over that. So you can prepare for it as much as you want. But at the end of the day, if you are going to have a higher price, so is everybody else across the board. If you're going to have a lower price, so is everybody else. So, it's important to have different avenues as far as supply, because if something gets cut off from logistics, we saw logistics issues during COVID,
Yeah.
having those different problem solving solutions on hand, that's a good key to keep in your back pocket. But as far as the pricing and the tariffs, and it's going to rise and lower, and everybody's going to be just fine.
I'm in California. They're raising the gas prices again
Don't
because it's
start with
extra tax,
California
and
and
I'm
your
like,
taxes. I
it's
don't
so
understand why anybody
terrible.
lives in that state. We're Floridians over here, but we left Massachusetts. So, I understand the concept. I don't see how it benefits the businesses.
No, but it does lead to the opportunity. What you were saying again, all that talk about diversification, right? So whether you put private label in it because you've got more control on that cost,
Right.
whereas on the branded side you can't. And then if you start scoping, we've got buyers from major corporations that they're starting to say, hey, we sent our team over to Brazil, or we sent them over here. And so they're just kind of navigating those waters for the future of their business. But
Yeah.
I think that the idea for them is to say it's here, and this might happen again, like you said, with COVID. So now the pattern's telling us that we have to lean towards these other elements and incorporate it with our business model.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's where the future is. And just having that availability to pick up the phone and have that conversation is going to be key. So, really networking with people from all around the world is going to be the solution to building a sustainable business for the future.
Well, I think that's a good one to end it on. So all I can say is, Joel, it's been so fabulous having you on this episode. Thank you
Thank
for
you
your
for having me.
time. And then hopefully, I know we'll see your team, maybe not for August, but I think there's a few buyers on your side. We'll see them for March at ASD. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you for joining us. We want you to be a part of the show. So let us know who you want to see and what stories you want to hear. Leave us a comment and make sure you like and subscribe.